Welcome to another In Wheel Time podcast, a 30-minute mini version of the In Wheel Time car show that airs live every Saturday morning, 8 to 11 a.m. Central. This is the award-winning all things automotive car talk show, In Wheel Time. Welcome. Along with Mike out of this world, Mars, King Konrad DeLong, Jeff Zekin, I'm Don Armstrong. Glad that you could join us on this Saturday. Kind of a gloomy Saturday, but I did check the weather forecast, and the weather forecast is for all these clouds to kind of start breaking up about mid-morning.
Good.
Be about 10 o'clock
kind
or so.
Of warm
it's
it
supposed
up
to
a little bit.
Yeah, high today about 70 degrees. So all you people living up there in the Midwest, freezing your rear ends off.
Plowing out of 12, 14, 18 inches of snow.
Yeah, that's it. Well, welcome to Texas. Okay, joining us right now online is Chris Karl. He's the executive director of ZCCA. That's the Z Car Club of America. Chris, good morning. Oh, sorry, wrong button. Never mind. Okay, start again, Chris. I'm sorry I had your button not pushed.
Good morning.
Yeah, he's good at pushing buttons some days.
Yeah, there's those days that I can push the button and those that I can't, and that clearly is right now.
So exciting times for the Z folks, huh?
Yeah, it certainly is. We're looking forward to a new Z model coming out here very soon. And after last year's celebration, we commemorated 50 years of the Z car in 2020, which is a celebration that actually started in Japan in 2019, depending on how you count the years. They celebrate based on 69, celebrate based on 70, based on the model year.
Yep, the original 240.
Yeah.
You know,
a couple of them.
I thought it was real interesting whenever I talked to Steve Parrott about, the prototype coming out, the new one. I said, who can we talk to about the history of this car? Because I remember when it came out, it was the two-seater and it was hot. And I thought, he's got somebody inside Nissan that knows everything there is to know about this car. But no, he sent us over to you. So you can blame him.
Well, no worries. I'm happy to do it. That's what we do. The Z Car Club Association organizes car clubs and has been doing so around the Z car for 3 decades. So the whole effort started in concert with Nissan. There was an interest in creating a grassroots Z car club community when the first 240Z came out. Fast forward to today, we're still doing it, right? We got 60 clubs across North America. We've got affiliate clubs, what we call our sister clubs abroad. So clubs in Japan. I was on a live Zoom last night with an Australian club. This morning, we had a 4 a.m. call with some friends over in Japan with 4 or 5 clubs. So it's alive and well, and the enthusiast community has a big thirst for this next car.
So with the Japan clubs, is it still the Z Club or is it the Fair Lady Club? Because I know in Japan, the car is a different name.
Yeah, the Fair Lady Z moniker actually came from a movie called My Fair Lady, which was adored by an executive within Nissan, and that's why they followed that moniker. And even the homage of the Z the prototype that was released during our event called ZCon last year, September 15th, the Fair Lady Z badge was still put on the back of the car in honor of those early roots for the vehicle.
I'd never realized that was related to the movie. I just knew the name. That's an interesting.
Little tidbits here and there of history. If you guys ever get the opportunity to come out to our national event at ZCon event, we call it the International Z-Car Convention. A lot of history and whatnot. You can learn a lot. So,
looking at your, and I'm assuming you said you had 60 chapters here in the United States. What type of membership, including all those chapters, would you assume the Z Club has right now?
So that's a slightly interesting question because we have 2 types of members. We have formal clubs that actually collect money to be members of their club, and then we have the social clubs. Those are the guys on Facebook, on traditional forums and whatnot.
They don't give you any money, do they?
They don't give us any money.
Well, they need to.
More of a, put an arm around the shoulder, welcome to the family, and help promote the Z, help promote the national events, the regional events that all these clubs are handling. But to get back to your question, there's probably 6,000 to 7,000 paid members across those clubs, which is very short-stroked. I'll be honest, a lot of clubs sandbag the number of members that they want to pay for. So but when you look at the social aspect, we get into the hundreds of thousands of true members out there. These are the guys that, for whatever reason, the traditional club model of going to meetings once a month, cruises or whatnot may not fit their lifestyle, but it's easy to jump on Facebook and have a chat and get together once or twice a year.
Yeah, they can still be part of it, even if they're live in the middle of Kansas and they're the only person within 150 miles that's interested.
Yeah. The Gateway Z Club sitting in Kansas ready to help them out.
There you go.
So what kind of Z do you own, or how many different ones?
So that's a loaded question. Right now in my garage, I have 12.
12?
Wow.
And I own serial number 201 240Z, a 1970 model.
Oh, wow.
71, a 72. Then I've got a 77 280Z, an 87 300ZX Turbo. I've got 5 of the mid-90s 300ZXs, a 350Z Nismo in 07, and an 09 Nismo 370Z. So
you have an addiction.
I have a slight addiction, and I just ponied up for a very large garage to make some space. So,
and the vaccine for that's going to be the new 400, right?
It won't be called 400. That's a bad media moniker for the new car. But yeah, whatever they do call it, it's on my list. If I can, pay the bills and figure out a way to get one. Most of the cars I have, quite honestly, guys, they're fixer-uppers that over time, you find one and it's got good bones and you work on it over time. Make it a little bit better, It's not about having the new car necessarily. One of the fleet was a new car. That was the 370Z Nismo. After I got back to Japan, I had the opportunity to meet some folks involved with the design work on the aero of the car. And I made a couple suggestions and somehow they made production. So it's kind of okay, I got to have one type of thing. But the rest of them pretty modest beginnings.
Yeah, well, don't forget we talked about taking a tour of your garage when you get that thing finished.
Yeah, it's there. I got flooring and cases going for vast. I'm a collector of memorabilia and die casts, and posters and banners and all sorts of stuff. And frankly, it's just life gets in the way of this hobby of ours, right? Around cars. I think it'll be another 2 to 3 weeks, and most of that in and done and ready to, be tour worthy.
Well, get it up there when the weather gets a little bit better too. We don't need the snow and everything. We got time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I'd be honored to show you around when it's ready for you.
So it was interesting to hear you mention in the beginning that Nissan, or at the time was Datsun, was heavily involved in the formation of your club, is what I assume you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, that's correct. Nissan Motor Corporation spawned Datsun in the States. There's some history around that. It was really spawned because they weren't sure that they could be successful. In the early days, Datsun was a moniker that heralds back to DAT, a company under the umbrella of Nissan Motor Corporation. And the Datsun brand was brought to the U.S. as a test bed. In case it failed, it didn't have directly the Nissan name on it.
Okay.
Then it became incredibly, wildly successful, and they went, oh, interesting, right? And there was a gentleman who brought Datsun to the States. You probably have heard his name in the arena. His name's Yutaka Akiyama. We know him as Mr. K. And I had the pleasure of getting to know him over the years. He was a regular at Z-Con from 1995 till about 2005. And he was coming over in his late 90s, and eventually health caught up to him and wasn't permitted to travel. So we brought him in kind of like this, up until he passed away back in 2015. He was joining us via WebEx, so web conference. That whole Datsun thing, he was wildly successful with the Fair Lady Roadster and a variety of models, Datsun 510 trucks, and a whole variety of things here in the States. The Z was really his baby. He lobbied hard to have a sport GT sports car produced that could interchange parts with other models, and it took off.
And
Here we are.
And Nissan's had a pretty good racing history through the years. You know, they did outstanding in IMSA with their prototype car. It actually dominated IMSA for a number of years with their prototype car. And I think, what was it, 90? That they
in
were
the 90s with Steve Millen and
right.
that team with the 300ZX GTP car. There were Peter Brock, and Bob Sharp Racing.
Bob Sharp Racing. And actually, not just Bob Sharp, it included Paul Newman raced a Z car at one point in his history. Right? And I think it was 92, wasn't it, when Nissan won the 24 Hours of Daytona, the first Japanese import car to win the 24 Hours of Daytona with their prototype
there
car.
were a lot. There was a SCCA National Championships in the early 70s, a driver by the name of John Morton, who you may know.
Yep.
He drove for BRE, Brock Racing Enterprises, Peter Brock's racing team. And then Bob Sharp with Newman racked up a variety of wins across the board, as well as international. And Steve Millen was that driver in the 1990s in the number 75, number 76, red, white, and blue 300ZXs that ultimately became disqualified. They were too competitive in their class.
Or they're too dominant in their class. Competitive
the
means
wording choice was carefully selected, I think, by the folks officiating at the time. But yeah, effectively, they were way ahead of their time.
And listening to, again, what you'd said a little bit earlier, that Nissan still has some connection or involvement with the club, that you gave them some ideas as to the Nismo brand. And for our listeners that don't know, Nismo is to Nissan what AMG is and M is and V-Series is to Mercedes, BMW, and Cadillac. Nismo is Nissan's performance division.
Yep, it's a simple moniker. You take Nissan and Motorsports and you package it, slam it together, and you get Nismo, NISMO, and you're dead on. That's exactly what it is.
I always wondered about that.
Yeah, it's the aftermarket accessories and motorsports division, and Katagiri's son is the president.
It's like Mopar.
So, kind of like Mopar.
And do you have any insight to the what I miscalled the 400, but to the one that they're about to release? Have they given you guys a sneak peek?
I was honored to be handed an NDA and be able to be part of a research project, or rather I guess it was a research project. And during our event, ZCon 2018 in Atlanta, there was an effort to find out from the enthusiasts at the event what they would like to see in the next Z-Car. And there were really two concentrated camps, guys. There were the old schoolers that wanted the 240Z reboot, and then you had the folks that said, hey, we want to go up against Porsche and dominate again like the 240 did back in its day. Let's build a performance-oriented model that can stand up against some of the higher horsepower cars that are being delivered today, which heralded back to the 300ZX twin turbo that was launched in 1990, 300 horsepower. It was a dominant force, and as we mentioned, really did well on track as a race car in race delivery. So we took all of that data, sent it back to Nissan that they collected, and Z Proto, I heard within a couple months of our event last year for 2020 in Nashville in September that we're going to definitely be able to have that prototype revealed. Ironically, we chose the date for 2020 because it also wrapped around Yutaka Katayama's birthday, which was September 15th. So we had already planned to do something special to commemorate Mr. K's birthday, who we consider the father of the Z-Car. Nissan coordinated the Z Proto to launch on that same day.
Well, that was smart.
Yeah, it was a very nice thing. And to do that in the midst of everything going on in the world last year, trying to, number one, hold an event, but then coordinate all those special bits. It came together in a big way that was a very emotional thing for everybody involved.
So you guys had a chance to see the Z Proto?
We did live from Japan. So it was actually revealed from Japan, but we had a live Zoom call, global Zoom call, by invite only of 1,000 select people that can participate and interact, and then the rest could just watch, so to speak.
What was that, at 4 a.m. in the morning?
From Japan.
It was pretty early in Japan. I think it went on somewhere around 7:30 or 8 p.m., and that was Central Time in Nashville.
Gotcha.
And if you're passionate about Z's, doesn't matter what time it was going to be. If you got an invite to be on that Zoom call,
you were on it. Yep.
You were going to be there. So I know you use the phrase NDA, which means you can't tell us anything about the car, and I'm cool with that.
Well, I can tell you my opinions. I can tell you what's already been stated, which a lot of folks don't even pay attention. It's funny. It will have a twin turbo. Well, let me rewind and summate what everybody asked for. The community, as well as the car community in general, what they really wanted in a new Z was rear-wheel drive, more power, turbos if possible, manual shift. And then when you take a look at the Z community feedback, they said, give us some styling cues to the 240Z, give us some styling cues to the 300 ZX C32 chassis. Give us something that looks like a Z car, meaning it's not a complete departure from the previous models, the last couple of generations, and on and on. And all those cues ended up making it into the car.
Okay.
So you see a lot of that in the front end of the 240Z. You see a lot of the 300 ZX C32 in the rear end of the car, but it all meshed together with some Japanese styling, with katana going down what used to be a drip tray in the early cars, but they took it as a styling point and made a Japanese katana styling line into the edges of the roof line.
Well, that's awesome. It's kind of cool to see a manufacturer fully engaged with a club like that. And how can people get to join the Z Club?
So you pretty much go to zcca.org. That's our website. Z is in zebra, Charlie, Apple. And that is the national body which I am proud to lead with a team of folks across the country. And we have chapter clubs. So on that website, you'll see something that says, hey, I want to find a club. And then take a look at the list of clubs and say, all right, there are 3 in Ohio, there are 4 in this state. And pick one that's local to you, and you pretty much fill out an application and join the club.
Well, thanks. We'll post that on our Facebook page. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Sure.
And
the other URL, just to be aware of, guys, is the event. ZCON.org is the international Z-Car convention that runs every year. And there are 25 or 30 companies involved from a sponsorship perspective, and people come from, COVID aside, 7 to 8 to 9 countries would come into that event.
Do you talk to Steve Parrott often?
Sometimes, yeah.
Well, next time you talk to him, you tell him that Ray said hello.
Oh, gosh.
Ray? All right, we'll do, sir.
Yeah. All right.
We appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your knowledge of the Z brand. And thanks for the invite for anybody who's watching that has a Z, wants to join the club. We put you up on our Facebook page.
Chris, great to talk to you. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Guys. Have a great one.
Yep,
Thanks.
Executive Director of ZCCA. Love it.
Cool.
Okay. Let's check in on the racing calendar. Are things happening down in Daytona?
Yep. Well, last weekend was 24 hours of Daytona.
Right.
And Acura won their DPI 24 hours.
I was so disappointed.
Second
I watched
year in
it.
a row, and they beat Cadillac, so I know Jeffy was licking his wounds. Corvette won GTLM. So
That was a bright spot.
It was a pretty cool event. And they said it was an extremely competitive because right there at the end, so many cars were on the final lap, which in 24 hours, you think about, the margin of victory being in seconds after 24 hours is kind of unusual.
I actually watched a lot of that, and it came down to the last hour of pit strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Can you 24 hours, and last hour it comes down to pit strategy.
That's what it's supposed to
Amazing.
be. Very, very good. And then this weekend, tomorrow is going to be Daytona 500 NASCAR. Qualifying is going to be tomorrow, and then they'll have the Daytona Clash, which is a non-points race. That's going to be on the 9th. The Duels of Daytona, which is they take the qualifying, and then they go into 2 races. They take the top 2 get the pole awards, and then they have these 2 races to determine the actual qualifying for the Daytona 500. That's going to be Thursday, and then next Sunday is the Daytona 500. So NASCAR racing is upon us, and then on the 21st, the first time ever, the NASCAR cars are going to run the Daytona Road Course, and that'll be the following week after the Daytona 500.
Cool.
Should be interesting.
Do you think NASCAR's trying too hard to get their fan base
No,
back?
I don't. They need to do
They
this.
need to
try
do something
harder.
Because they're going to put dirt on
Bristol.
Bristol. They're already putting dirt on Bristol.
It's
That's going to be
wonderful.
cool. You got to look at the history of NASCAR. That's kind of where NASCAR came from.
No, it is where
was
NASCAR
the
came
dirt
from,
tracks.
yeah.
Well, sand, beach.
Well, that would have been the running on Daytona Beach, but they ran probably a majority of their races early on. were
They
all
ran
dirt.
liquor on dirt.
Yeah, well,
That's how that worked.
We ran liquor last night.
Yeah, we did, and it wasn't on dirt.
well,
Thank
the good
goodness.
news for Texas is that NASCAR is coming to Circuit of the Americas
Yes.
sometime later in the year, so that's going to actually be pretty cool.
That's very cool. I love NASCAR road racing.
And Circuit of the Americas is a beautiful track.
I mean,
Are they
think
gonna
of those
put- are they gonna put
wonderful
dirt on
races
it?
that they used to have at
No.
Riverside.
Yeah.
Loved Riverside.
And then NHRA, again, doesn't start until the 14th of March. And Formula One starts the 18th of March. So, lots of racing coming. Indy cars don't start until April.
You've managed to stretch out this 1 minute little segment into 5, and now you've cut into the Konrad's Car Clinic. You want me to move that?
If you need to, yes.
Okay, we'll just continue on with the racing calendar then, since we.
Well, actually, that was probably it for the racing calendar.
Of course.
He done. He gone.
Timing is
Well,
everything.
One of the other things I wanted to mention is, friend of the show, Randy Borcherding and Paint House. They do super high-level cars. Last year, they won Battle of the Builders for the truck. They won the top award for trucks at SEMA of 2019.
Is that the Studebaker?
No, that was the 56.
the Hudson?
No, the 56 Chevy pickup truck that we
Oh, yeah,
saw
yeah. That he
at
had the
Guitars and
iPad
Cars.
and all that
Right.
stuff built into it. Yeah, was
that
cool.
won best truck of SEMA. So this year, SEMA was a virtual event, but Randy and Paint House built a Ranchero for SEMA, and again, they're in Battle of the Builders, and that's going to be on tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock in the morning on
Discovery? Is it Discovery
the
Channel?
History Channel.
History Channel.
Now, the last time he was on, he showed us pictures of
Some of that
vehicle.
car.
Yes,
now you're
he
going to be
did.
able to see a lot more of the car.
completed version.
And he's, there's 12 builders that are in Battle of the Builders, and one of the other builders is Chip Foose. So Randy and Paint House, they play at a very, very high level. So a shout out to the folks at Paint House, and definitely click on the
Very
History
cool.
Channel tomorrow morning at
Very
8
cool.
o'clock. Don't bother watching any of that news junk that's out there.
Nah.
Watch car stuff. And
So since it's on tomorrow, does this mean there's already been a winner selected? Does he know?
I'm not going to tell, but yes.
Look at how coy you are.
I'm not coy. I'm just stupid.
He's just Konrad.
Yeah, just like he was with the diesel engine 6.6 liter.
King
Whatever.
Coy Konrad.
You notice I've given into that until I go out and look at it, right?
Well, let's go ahead and do Konrad's Car Clinic, and I'll slide the headlines till later.
Well, over 40 years ago, well, close to 50 years, it is 50 years ago, America was heavy into electric cars. Did you know that?
I did not.
They put the first 3 electric cars they built on the moon.
Oh,
And they're still there.
Dun, dun, dun.
And it wasn't the first 3 because there was electric cars way back in the 1900s, early 1900s. But on July 11th of 1969, before the Apollo 11 moon landing, NASA put out a bid process for the next for the lunar
Rover.
Land Rover, lunar rover vehicle, LRV, and the people who bid on that were Boeing, Bendix, Grumman, and Chrysler all submitted proposals to build the lunar rover. The contract was given to Boeing, and the contract was for $19 million. Well, remember, this is a government project, so cost overruns led to the final cost being double the $19 million contract to $38 million.
Of course.
Do you remember the $600 toilet seat?
Yeah.
yeah.
There's no toilet seat on this, but I would assume that was part of the cost overrun. overrun.
Does that come with a charging station up there? Or?
Actually, there
No,
was
but it
some
does
kind
come with a handle.
yeah,
Not the commode.
You talk about range anxiety. You know, this thing would have given you bad range anxiety. So Boeing built it, but they had help from other manufacturers in doing it. So the LRV was 460 pounds without a payload and could carry a total payload of 1,080 pounds, but that total payload included the passengers, and it could carry up to 2 astronauts along with all the rock samples and stuff. And it was designed for a top speed of about 8 miles an hour. And of course, you put a guy in a vehicle out where there are no cops, and they're going to see what
No
kind of
speed limit.
No speed limit. They're going to see what kind of top speed run they could get.
Do you know who comes to mind with that in this room?
All of us. Mars.
What? Yeah.
But
Why
they
is it
said they
always
actually
me?
got it up to 11.2 miles per hour on the Apollo 17 version.
Downhill with the wind.
No, there's no wind.
Oh,
there is
downhill.
no wind. Well, so it went up. The Land Rover, Lunar Rover, was on mission 15, 16, and 17. And each rover was carried up in the lunar module, and it kind of folded up, and that was part of the design, so they could compact the amount of space. And then when the lunar module landed, it came out of a compartment in there, and they unfolded it. The interesting thing about it is the wheels were actually designed by the General Motors Defense Research Laboratories.
Hold that picture.
Cool picture. So
It's a great picture, except there's the picture of the rover on the moon and then the moon in the background.
well, you know, everybody always said the moon landing was fake.
Yeah.
So it was. This was.
I can see that.
This is the moon with the moon.
Uh-huh.
Well, I picked the wrong picture, didn't I? I might have picked it up a conspiracy theory. So switch to the next one.
I'm going
and
to.
we'll talk about the tires.
There you go.
Interesting thing about this is the tires weren't really tires. They were just fences, and then they put those chevrons of titanium on it to give it traction. The problem, and you can see the red piece up there, was it threw up a lot of dust. So they put these fender covers on them. And, of course, what's the first thing to get damaged on the Rover?
The fender
covers. And on 2 separate trips, they ripped a fender cover off of it, just bumping into it with something. And they said as they were driving, it threw up so much dust in the air that it covered so much stuff, and some stuff started to overheat on it because it was covered with so much lunar dust. Talk about Don always has his issues with range anxiety with electric vehicles. Well, these electric vehicles were actually only designed to go about 20 to 25 miles, and there was no recharging of them. That was it. That's all you had. When it went, it's 25 miles.
I wonder if it's got any charge left in it right now.
Oh, good question, because they're still sitting in the same place, and there are telescopes and that you can see that they can you can actually see them with some of these high-powered scopes that are out there. So the total distance driven by the Apollo 15 was 17.25 miles, 16.5 miles on Apollo 16, and 22 miles on Apollo 17. And they said that the range on these was only going to be about 25 miles. So it's interesting that they got that close.
Interesting story. Thank you very much for sharing. We appreciate it.
$39 million
Later
for 3 lunar rovers.
All right. Well, quick break now. You're on the In Wheel Time Car Show. Thanks for joining us today.
Tailpipes and Tacos is Houston's premier cruise-in, and you're invited to join in. Whether you're a cruiser or spectator, Tailpipes and Tacos is the place to enjoy made-to-order breakfast tacos, fresh coffee, and mingle with Houston's fun car people. Mark your calendar for Saturday, February 20th for Tailpipes and Tacos at the Lupi Tortilla Mexican Restaurant in Katy, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Tailpipes and Tacos is free, and everyone's invited. You will see collector cars, hot rods, customs, magnificent originals, and resto mods all at one location. Cars from all over Southeast Texas cruise in and show off in a friends and family event at the Lupi Tortilla Mexican Restaurant on the Grand Parkway at Kingsland Boulevard, just south of I-10 in Katy. Drag racer, car enthusiast, and Lupi founder Stan Holt brings you Houston's hottest cruise-in, Tailpipes and Tacos, Saturday, February 20th, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. at Lupi's in Katy. The In Wheel Time Car Show will be there too. Get your ride ready, and we'll see you at the Tailpipes and Tacos Saturday morning cruise-in, February 20th, 8 to 11 a.m. at Lupi's in Katy, weather permitting. That's it for this podcast episode of the In Wheel Time Car Show. I'm Don Armstrong, inviting you to join us for our live show every Saturday morning, 8 to 11 a.m. Central on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and our InWheelTime.com website. Podcasts are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeart Podcast, Podcast Addict, TuneIn, Pandora, and Amazon Music. Keep listening, and we'll see you soon.